DeGroat, and I am a registered nurse and I serve as the division's clinical coordinator. I am joined by my colleague this morning, Misty Archer, who serves as one of the division's administrative office support assistants, and she's also the division's gatekeeper for the health risk screening tool process, and my valuable teammate. This is an informational call for implementing the HRST process if you are a day habilitation service provider agency. We are currently in implementation phase 1, in which residential service provider agencies can voluntarily begin implementing the HRST process for residential waiver participants, and support coordinators can voluntarily begin implementing on individuals they support who have non-residential waiver services. You as day habilitation service provider agencies will be notified when individuals to whom you provide services are going to be screened through this process so that you can gain access into the system to be able to view their medications, diagnoses, and any applicable health risk support plans in order to be able to ensure that you are able to meet their support needs. The Health Risk Screening Tool, or HRST is what I often call it, is a tool used to provide early detection of health risks and destabilization. The Missouri HRST project has also designed standardized electronic health risk support plan templates in the intellectability system, which will support the team with identification of implementation strategies to mitigate risk and improve health outcomes. The completion of the HRST and any applicable HRSPs or health risk support plans will align with the individual's annual Individualized Support Plan meeting or ISP meeting. Information entered into the Missouri HRST system or intellectability system, sometimes it's used interchangeably, that will be accessible electronically to all identified team members, providing a more efficient and effective system for interdisciplinary team member communication and direct accessibility to identified health risk, planning, and service information. This access will also provide a more efficient and effective process for ongoing monitoring to ensure individual waiver participant health and welfare. The Missouri HRST process is designed to have the individual to their fullest extent possible in their identified interdisciplinary team support team. For example, family members, friends, paid support staff, registered nurse staff, and support coordinators all collectively complete the HRST. The HRST will be completed during the month of the scheduled ISP meeting to assist with the identification of additional supports and services outside of any required health risk support plans. So the Health Risk Screening Tool, or HRST, is a tool used to provide early detection of health risks and destabilization. The Missouri HRST project also has designated, hang on just a second. So what is the HRST? Let's see. The process applies to individuals, or who does the MO DD HRST process apply to? Well, it applies to the individuals receiving 1950 home and community-based waiver services. And those include the Partnership for Hope waiver, the Mo Kids waiver, the comprehensive waiver or for residential services, or the community waiver. Why is the Division of Developmental Disabilities initiating the process? The process is designed to serve as a support to ensure individual waiver participant health and welfare. Information entered into the MOHR system will be accessible electronically to all identified team members, providing a more efficient and effective system for interdisciplinary team member communication and direct accessibility to identified health risk planning and service information. There is also a message center in the system in which a person working with an individual can send messages to other interdisciplinary team members, which can facilitate communication so that the team can continue to work together to support the individual. For example, if an individual is at day habilitation and perhaps they appear sleepier than usual or just different things out of the ordinary going on with that individual, Well, the rehabilitation provider staff or whomever can message the other service provider, maybe if they have residential services or maybe the support coordinator, just to let them know what's going on with that person. Maybe the person has just started a new medication and maybe it's making them more tired, or just maybe there's other things going on with that person in which they need a little extra support. So that's just one kind of example where that there's also that message center that could be beneficial to help facilitate that valuable communication piece. Um, when will the Division of DD be initiating the process? So the Division of DD is working directly with residential and support coordination provider agencies that have requested to initiate implementation of the MO DD HRST process. Residential and support coordination provider participation is encouraged during this phase of implementation. Participation at this time will support final process enhancements prior to full statewide implementation, which is scheduled to align with a connection go live date in calendar year 2023. So at this time, residential service providers and support coordination providers can voluntarily implement and be able to provide feedback and work through adapting to this new process before it is mandated for implementation in 2023. Currently, it is projected to be mandatory in the month of May of 2023. And that, again, that's in order to align with the connection rolling out. So your role as a rehabilitation service provider, rehabilitation service providers may be identified by the person receiving services to participate in the process to complete their health risk screen information and any applicable health risk support plans. And sometimes I may use screen or tool or health risk screening tool interchangeably. That just means that's the same thing. Um, Access to information available in the system will be as a result of the MO DD HRST process, and it serves to provide a more efficient and effective system for interdisciplinary team member communication and direct accessibility to identified health risk planning and service information. So how does a rehabilitation service provider initiate the process? Um, any requests to go ahead and get into the system or any questions pertaining to this process, please utilize our mailbox at moddhurstproject@dmh.mo.gov. Currently, my colleague Misty and I will reach out to you if you have been named as providing services to individuals to whom the process has been implemented for. So if a residential service provider agency has already decided to move forward and start screening people, we are going to be reaching out to you to let you know and to help you with the onboarding process so that you can get in there and view those individuals. And it is the same if they're non-residential and just have support coordination. That is the same case. Once you're identified as providing rehabilitation services for the person, that our next step is to reach out to you all and help you get access. And starting in October, we will be having monthly calls for rehabilitation implementation. So, and if you are having any questions or anything in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out to our mailbox that you see there on the screen. And again, it's MO DD HRST project at dmh.mo.gov. So when should all MO DD waiver participants have their initial health risk screen completed by? Um, the targeted date or timeline to have all DMHDD waiver participants receiving their initial HRST screen is in May of 2024. So all people will be starting being screened. It'll be mandatory in May of 2023, unless they've already started the process. And then all will need to have been screened by May of 2024. When should the HRST be completed? Well, the HRST is to be completed during the same month every year as when the individualized support plan meeting is conducted. So during that planning month prior to the next ISP implementation date, it does not have to be during the planning meeting. It can be a totally separate meeting. In fact, while we're getting it rolled out, we're encouraging that it takes place in a separate meeting, just so that it isn't just a long, the meeting doesn't take too long. The process also requires that the HRST be updated throughout the ISP year when changes in status are identified that change any of the 22 HRST rating item scores. So if an individual served has support needs and those support needs have changed, and this is just an example, but God forbid if the person had a stroke and it affected maybe how they eat or walk or just any other kind of items of their daily living, the person designated as the rater will update the screen to reflect those changes and create new health risk support plans to direct support providers how to support the individual. So how long does it take on average to enter the information for a health risk screen? So perhaps you work with an individual and they're going to be screened. So maybe the RN rater or if it's a support coordinator doing the rating, they may reach out to someone who maybe works closely with that person every day habilitations. You may be able to help answer some of the questions. So just to give you an idea, on average, the health risk screen takes 30 to 45 minutes to enter the information for the person. Initial screens and screens for individuals who may have complex health needs may take longer. You as rehabilitation providers won't be entering in the information for the screen, but as I said, you may be invited to participate in the screening in order to help answer questions about the individual. You may know them very well, and so, you'll see another side of them that maybe not everybody does, and that's them at their, during the daytime and participating in those kinds of activities. And the whole reason for this is having the multidisciplinary, different team members joining is just to ensure accurate responses so we can make sure we're identifying risk in different areas. As like the RN may see certain things about the individual, if they are residential and have direct support professionals that work closely with them, they might, they'll see different aspects. So it's nice to have a well-balanced screen for that person so we can make sure we're identifying risk so that we are providing the proper supports. Don't want to leave anything out. So who enters the health risk screen information for the person? The designated HRST rater is responsible to enter the health risk screen information for that person, and the rater is responsible throughout that ISP year to keep the HRST updated as it pertains to changes in the person's health status in accordance with the rater training. So they're trained and to learn how to update and when to update. So who is the designated HRST rater? The designated HRST rater is the assigned residential RN for individuals receiving home and community-based waiver residential services. The designated HRST rater is the assigned support coordinator for individuals receiving home and community-based non-residential services. So there's a little difference there. Who should be present to assist the rater with information to conduct the HRST process? We touched upon that just a little bit ago, but we'll review that. The person for whom the health risk screen applies. We want to encourage that individual to be able to participate as much as possible. Anyone that individual requests to participate to assist with information pertaining to their current health needs. This should include at least one direct support professional that knows the person well, when the person's receiving residential services. And then any caregivers that know and support that person. For example, any paid or non-paid supports, any family members. And now I am going to give the folder to Misty to talk about the MO DD HRST system access. Give me just a second. I'm a little slow here. Okay.
Thank you, Leslie. How does an agency receive access to the MO DD HRST system? Each division, contracted provider, whether it be service provider or targeted case management, aka support coordinator, will be required to have at least one gatekeeper. The division will work directly with Intellectability, which is the company who created the HRST screening tool and is contracted to be our support with the MO DD HRST process. The division will work directly with Intellectability support staff to create the provider level gatekeeper account. Provider level gatekeepers will be provided a user document to outline the MO HRST gatekeeper process upon submission of their request to the division. The provider level gatekeeper will then have the ability to request accounts with Intellectability for the remaining users in their agency. How long is the gatekeeper training? The gatekeeper training is on average 30 minutes to complete. The person who is your agency's designated gatekeeper will receive an email from Intellectability. Within the email is a link to be able to log into the HRST system as well as set their user password. Once the gatekeeper logs in, they will have the gatekeeper training come up automatically in the system. It will be stored in your training library so that you can access the training for a refresher at any time. Also, each agency can have more than one gatekeeper. It is a good idea to have at least two eventually, as you may need a backup. What is the requested role for identified day habilitation service provider team members? The role for identified day habilitation service provider team members is entitled Interdisciplinary Team Member. This training will be in your training library and will be required when you receive your email with your login information. It will give you an overview of the HRST process and your role in it. Sorry, I think I skipped forward too much. There we go. How long is the training for the role of interdisciplinary team member? This training can take on average 1 to 2 hours to complete. Information regarding the HRST, including a 7-minute video, will be provided. Additional online training tutorials will be provided to the identified team members. The trainings are assigned and require completion upon the team member's initial or first-time request to access the system for the specific assigned role. The training is structured so that the team member can work at their own pace to complete the training requirements. The training tutorials upon completion will also be available online in their training library to the team member for additional review anytime throughout the process. What will the identified interdisciplinary team member role provide access to? Upon completion of their required trainings, the team member will have view access, which will include the following information for individuals that they provide DMH-DD waivered services and support to and are assigned in the system. The health risk screening information, applicable health risk support plan information, and monthly residential RN oversight documentation for persons receiving waiver residential services. Now I will turn it back over to Leslie to talk about the health risk support plan.
Thank you, Misty. Took me a minute to unmute. Sorry about that. All right. So, what is a health risk support plan, or HRSP? The Missouri DD HRST process includes designated standardized electronic health risk support plan templates in the Intellectability or MO DD HRST system, which will support the team with identification of implementation strategies to mitigate risk and improve health outcomes. The completion of the HRST and any applicable health risk support plans will align with the individual's annual Individualized Support Plan or ISP meeting. So when are the health risk support plans completed? The HRST, upon completion, assigns scores to 22 health and behavior-related rating items. Each rating item scoring a 3 or higher will trigger the need for the team to complete the applicable health risk support plan template for that rating item. The individual and their team have the option to access and complete a specific health risk support plan template for any HRST rating item scoring below 3. The completed health risk support plan will include the incorporation of service and training considerations identified by the HRST to mitigate identified areas of health and behavioral risk. The completed health risk support plans will serve as an attached component of the healthy living section of the ISP and are to be used as an educational resource or a training for team members providing direct support and services to that individual. The completion of the HRST and any applicable HRSPs will align with the individual's annual Individualized Support Plan meeting. So who completes and participates in the HRSP or Health Risk Support Plan part of the process? Well, the designated HRST rater is responsible to enter the Health Risk Support Plan information for that person. And the person for whom the Health Risk Support Plans apply, and then anyone that person requests to participate to assist with the information pertaining to their individual identified areas of risk. The individual should be present to assist as best to the best of their ability, and then anyone else who's providing supports around the individual who knows them well. Let's see, this should include at least one direct support professional who knows the person well when they're receiving residential services, and then any caregivers or support people that know the person and support them. For example, paid or non-paid supports or family members. So what is the HRST clinical review process? That's another step in this process. Starts off with the rating or screening meeting, and then this right here comes through once that RN rater support coordinator hits submit on the screen. There will be a quality check completed on any person that has an identified healthcare level of 3 or above. It can be from 1 to 6, but those that score 3, 4, 5, or 6, those will require a HRST clinical review. You as the day habilitation service provider will not be participating with the clinical review piece, but this part right here is just for your information. So it takes place between the person who does the rating and then either the regional office nurse or a nurse from Intellectability, depending on whether they're residential or non-residential, will complete a quality check and just make sure that the notations that are entered in by each rating item supports that rating number that is produced by that. So the HRST is finalized once the HRST clinical reviewer has reviewed and agrees upon the completed screen. So once they've agreed, finalized it, and that should take about 14 business days, then the designated rater can move into creating the health risk support plans, which really just on each item, like say eating, ambulating, it just really tells what that person, just straight and to the point, what that person needs for support in that area. Like perhaps with eating, maybe the person eats quickly and needs a staff member to sit with them and encourage them to chew slower and take drinks between their bites. It will lay that information out like that. But it's sort of a step-by-step process. So once each component's complete, then the team can move forward to the next one. So who conducts the HRST clinical review process? As I had just said, The regional office quality, we call them, we're starting to use terminology quality programs rather than quality enhancement or quality assurance. But those RNs who are assigned from the regional office will fulfill the role of clinical reviewer for individuals receiving residential services. Intellectability, they have nursing personnel RNs on staff that will fulfill that role of clinical reviewer for those individuals receiving non-residential services. And as I said, that review is just really a quality check that makes sure that the rating scores and the notes correlate, appropriately. So let's just say I may not know the person, but I can go in the system and see what supports that person needs and why, and then just know how to support them if I needed to. Like, let's say I'm a new staff member or what have you. So where should I submit agency interest and participation? If you all have any questions or just want to reach out, day habilitation providers should submit their request and any questions pertaining to the MO DD HRST process too. And I believe Kat put that in the chat. It's MO DD HRST project at dmh.mo.gov. At this stage in the implementation process, as we gather information from the residential service providers and the support coordinators who are rating, we will reach out to those of you who provide rehabilitation services to help you onboard into the process so you can log in and see the health information and the support information for the individuals you serve. I really want to thank you for joining today's webinar. Appreciate your participation. Additional information pertaining to the MO DD HRST process may be accessed at, and it's https://dmh.mo.gov/DEV-disabilities/HRST-project. Again, thank you for your time, and any questions in the chat we will use for a Q&A document to post on our site.